Good afternoon. Welcome to Woodbridge, the best town around. My name is John McCormick. I'm the mayor of this great town. And what you're seeing today is why we're such a great town, because the people we have here helping those in need. Today is our annual mental health overdose awareness day. And it's a wonderful event that we've done. This is our third year now. We're very, very proud to host it. We're very, very proud to make resources available to people who need them. We remember the people who were lost to addiction many times through an overdose, and we celebrate those who have overcome their addiction. So this is a very special day. The young lady to my right is simply an amazing, amazing person. She is running our mental health drug awareness division of addiction services, I should say, of our health department. Gabriella Hewitt, formerly Gabriella Pasternak, is just an amazing person who truly cares about this cause, truly cares about the people that she helps. And I can't tell you how proud I am of the job that she does, along with all the other great people in Woodbridge Township. We have a whole lot of our recovery coaches here. I'm pretty sure we were the first town in the state to start this way back when under Dr. Bonnie Nolan, who was absolutely amazing. Bonnie went on to a private practice, and nobody better to take over from Bonnie than Gabriella. We have a whole lot of people here. Gabby's going to do her best to remember who you all are. I just want to thank in particular the Woodbridge Township Police Department, our Community Affairs Division, Officer Kovakowski and Mike Harris, who runs it. We have the County Prosecutor's Office here. We have the Woodbridge Elks, one of our personal favorites, the Domestic Violence Response Team. They do great things for our town, too. If you're in need, we just came from the backpack drive. We're giving out 500 backpacks to kids who otherwise might go to school, next to kids with fancy backpacks, and they have nothing. We gave out 500 backpacks thanks to Evangel Church. If you're in need, Woodbridge is the place you want to be because of all the people in this, I can't say in this room, in this parking lot. And in particular, the young lady I'm about to introduce. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Gabriella Hewitt. I'll trade these. I'll go this way.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to everybody that came out and is supportive to our program throughout, not just only on Overdose Awareness Day, but on a everyday basis, because that's how we make the impact that we are able to make. On an everyday basis, we provide the support and resources needed to help those that are looking for recovery. And I just want to thank you all for being a part of our resource network and being a part of our community that we're able to work together. Like the mayor mentioned, thank you to the police department, the prosecutor's office, the hospitals that are out here. We have JFK, we have Hackensack and Perth Amboy Hospital out here. We also have, yes, Dunkin' Donuts, absolutely, for always showing up. Thank you guys so much for showing up to all of our recovery events and the community events, because it's not all about just community treatment centers. Recovery itself is the term. The term is to recover and get better from something, to get better and recover from something. And that doesn't have to be just a substance addiction. It could be any kind of recovery. And that's why we have different organizations like the Family Support Organization that helps families as well, because we've all recovered together. And we're a team, and that's why we have such an amazing team of over 20 recovery coaches that are beyond phenomenal and make such an impact throughout our entire program, as well as we work in the courts, we work throughout the entire county of Middlesex, and the impact that we've made is astronomical. And even in Woodbridge, our overdose numbers have significantly lowered, and I'd say the substances have changed, which is sometimes doesn't sound that phenomenal, but it's a huge impact. When to hear your substance has changed slightly from fentanyl to more marijuana and gummies, to me, that's an astronomical change, and it makes an impact. We know that our work that we're doing is making an effect. And I just want to say thank you to you all for that. And I would love to introduce our next. Actually, I'll give it back to John for our next.
No,
speaker.
You can do it.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll introduce Brittany. She's one of our recovery coaches, and the disease of addiction has affected her, both personally and family-wise. And I would just love for her to share her story and the impact that it's made on her life.
You want to hold that close?
Can I hold?
I'll
Should I
hold
them
this.
both?
I'll hold this.
If you want, yeah.
I guess I'll hold these both. I'm very used to introducing myself and saying I'm Brittany and I'm an addict.
Hold this up closer. Yeah, that would not just keep it. I'll hold this. That's better.
I'm super grateful to be here. I'm grateful for what my life looks like today. It didn't have to be this way. I appreciate all of you guys coming out and supporting the purpose. And, you know, Woodbridge has made just like wild leaps for what they're doing for trying to help people in recovery and community. And I truly have been incredibly proud to say that I've worked for Woodbridge Township as a recovery coach almost since the beginning. It's like 7 going on 8 years now that I've been doing this. And I do it part-time. I give credit to anyone who works with people in, you know, mental health or addiction and any of that as a full-time job. It is the most rewarding yet taxing and exhausting, but most rewarding thing that you can really do. Giving back and being of service selfishly is truly, it fills my heart, and it reminds me like why I get up every day. Just to share a little bit of my experience, I started using young. I don't really know why. I just never really liked myself. A little bit of mental health. And the first time I tried to get clean, you know, I sincerely wanted to get clean. Like, using had not been fun for me for a very long time. I don't have many great, fun using stories. They were all pretty disastrous right from the beginning. I did a lot of in and out of jail. I missed a lot of holidays while in county jail. And I would come out, and I knew of recovery. I knew it existed. I didn't know it was a possibility for me, but I knew it was for other people because I saw people doing it. I was just never really willing to do the work that it took. But I sincerely wanted to get clean. And I remember like talking to my parents, and they would go, you know, we just want to shake you. And like, why? Like, why? Why are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know. I really didn't know. I just didn't know that there was another way. And I really didn't believe it was a possibility for me. So, you know, in and out of jails and programs. And, you know, if you're watching this, you probably know something about like the stigma of the disease of addiction. And that was my experience. I lucked out for a long time because I was a, you know, young, like, blonde-haired girl. So when I would get pulled over, you know, from the cops, they didn't always search my car, or they didn't always. But like, listen, like, that's the reality of it. But that lasted a short while. And then I experienced what the stigma was. Like, when I started looking like I was an active drug addict, I got treated very differently. You know, like walking into ShopRite looked a lot different for me at that point, or standing outside of ShopRite. It looked a lot different. And that's one of the reasons why I love what we do here. And truly, like, the no judgment. We want to help everyone. We want everyone to know that there is a better way and that you just don't have to live like this. I went through the experience with my sister using. I met my husband a little over 15 years ago while in recovery. And then, you know, he used. And there's a thing in recovery, like when, you know, if you're in a relationship and they use, like, you have to leave and remove yourself and like all these suggestions and all these things that you're told. And it's much easier to go, this is what you should do, until you're in the situation and you're like, that's not what I want to do. And it wasn't, and I didn't. And, you know, it worked out. I had my daughter. My daughter's now 13. And I stayed clean for a couple years because I found a program that showed me a new way. And I found people that loved me before I learned to love myself. And I say that because, you know, like, family, I had an expectation. I knew my family loved me. I knew they would do anything for me. I knew that every day. I never doubted that, because that was my expectation. It was everybody else is what I couldn't fathom, because I had just lived just lying to people and stealing and just really being a really crappy person. So I had no self-esteem because I didn't do any esteemable things. So when I found a group of people who were just like me, trying to get another day clean and just trying to navigate life. Like, I remember looking at people going, how do you get up for work every day? Like, that is exhausting. I can't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine having a conversation with someone to get a job, let alone getting up every day. And then I would go, like, I'd watch, you know, people, like, they buy houses. And I'm like, you actually pay the mortgage on your house? Like, how do you... I remember the first time my mom asked me, you know, to, like, pay my car insurance. I was, like, insulted. I was 18 years old living in her house. Like, but I, you know, my money has to go to what I want to spend it on. Like, what do you mean I have to pay car insurance for the car that she bought me? Like, that sense of entitlement and, you know, but again, like, I say that to say it was when I found a group of like-minded people that sat with me and said, like, do you understand that that is a little crazy to think that way? And about, like, personal responsibility and what it is to, like, make better decisions, to get better outcomes. And if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. And, you know, so I found those people and I stuck with them. And I ended up getting a couple years clean. And, you know, my experience was my husband had used again. And, you know, again, I'm, like, left with the decision. This is the person I love more than anything. And I have the, you know, the people that love me going, like, you have to leave because this isn't good for you. And I'm like, well, you don't know me very well, because I'm, like, tough as nails and, like, I'll be okay. Like, I'm just going to keep pushing through because I'm also really stubborn and, like, this is just how I'm going to do it. And it worked out. And he got clean again. And then, you know, we were clean again for a couple years together. I have my son, who's now 7.5, and life was, like, looking really good. Bought a house, the house that, like, I didn't even think that was a thing. I now have a mortgage. I'm like, I didn't even have credit because I didn't have credit cards. I didn't even know, you know, like, I had credit cards, I didn't pay them because I'm like, oh, it's just, I didn't know about responsibility. And so we got all, like, that material stuff, and life was really good. And most importantly, like, I didn't hate myself every day when I got up, because that's what it looked like for a really long time. I would wake up every day and the thought of having to just exist was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. And I just didn't feel that way anymore. And that was incredible, alone, forgetting all the material stuff and the fact that I had these kids that loved me and people that would go, wow, you're a really great mom, or you're a great daughter now. And my mom, who's always my biggest fan, because she'd go, you're doing great. And I'm like, you always say that, even when I'm not. But it felt really good. Like, I didn't wake up every day and hate myself. I didn't love myself every day. Life was not, you know, rainbows and butterflies daily. But I didn't feel how I felt, and that was great. And after a couple years, my husband used again. And again, now I have, you know, my daughter was 11, who, you know, is now, like, more aware when things are good at home. So now I'm left with the decision again. I have my husband, who I love more than anything. He was my favorite person on earth. He was, like, the kindest soul, and he was the funniest person I'd ever met. I always joke. The first time I met him, or one of the first times I was at his house, he had a box set of Seinfeld. And nobody, like, watched Seinfeld. Like, I watched Seinfeld because my father watched Seinfeld. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, that was it. And that was always the joke. I'm like, when I saw the box set of Seinfeld, I knew, like, he was the one for me. Because we have the same sense of humor. And I always, you know, like, I was aware that I was also broken in many, many different areas. But I also knew, like, that I tried really hard to get better in a lot of areas, and did. And I would, like, watch him, and, like, he just struggled in, like, so many areas, and I just didn't want to let go. So I played this game where, like, I'm like, okay, I know there's people that can help you, so, like, just talk to them. And then I would go, but just do it like how I did it, and then just get clean again, like, just go away again. And it was, like, the hardest thing to watch someone. So, like, my heart truly goes out to anyone who has loved ones that they've, you know, watched struggle with addiction and go through this and, like, not been able to help them. Because it was one of the hardest things. Like I said, like, I know I'm pretty tough. I'll get through it. Watching other people who you love so much is more heartbreaking than I would ever feel bad for myself. And having to, you know, explain to my daughter, like, why she's just going to go and spend the weekend at grandma's, because I just couldn't have her home, because I didn't want to tell him to leave, because then I didn't want to know what was going to end up happening, because, like, we know what happens when you use drugs, and, like, it's jails, institutions, and, like, possibly death, because that's just what it looks like. So I did that for months, and then he got clean again, and then it was like hope again, and everything was good, and I had, like, 9 months of everything being really, really good, um, I'm one of those people, like, when the people around me are good, like, I'm good, you know, because I do that. I, like, I'm very empathetic, and I take on people's pain. So when my daughter's stressed out, I'm like, you know, want to rip my hair out. It's like very, and after 9 months of him being clean again, and this is like a total of like a 15-year span of like this on and off again struggle, like I finally sat down and was like, this is what it was all for. It was for this. It was to wake up daily to the person that I love and my children, who I love more than anything, and I would do absolutely anything for. And we didn't have to be doing anything special. It could be sitting and eating breakfast, and I would go like, this is what I did it all for. Like, I just want my heart to feel light and happy, and have the people that I love and see them happy. And life was really good. And I had like 9 months of that, and probably like 2 or 3 months before my husband passed away. And I don't know how. I'm going to say this jokingly, and I don't mean it that way, and this is me being a little awkward about it, but he'd always say I was never diagnosed with mental health issues, and I'm like, I'm not really sure how, but he went to a million facilities, and he wasn't, and he struggled with gambling and like some other, you know, just other aspects really of the disease of addiction, because it's not just the drugs, it's a symptom. There's so many other aspects. The mental, the physical, what that looks like, what you're addicted to. It's all, it all stems from the same stuff. But about 3 months before he had passed away, he kind of, it seemed like a little stressed, and I had got to the point where I'm like, I can only ask questions. Like, I can't babysit, like I kind of gave up, but not gave up in a sense. I didn't give up on him. I gave up for my own sanity, that the tighter the grip I tried to hold, like the more my hands hurt, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I let it go a little bit and just said, like, you just got to talk to the people that you need to talk to, because you know that there's people that you can talk to. And probably 2-3 months of that, and I'll never forget, I was at my house and he was sitting upstairs and he was just in tears, and just said, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm going to give up. I can't do it. And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know if that meant I'm going to use. I didn't know if that meant, like, I'm going to kill. Like, I didn't know what it meant. I just had never felt such, like, just utter pain from him until, like, that moment. And then, of course, I'm crying because I'm going, I don't know how to help you. Like, I don't know what to do. And it was 3 days later, that I got a phone call. I had just started a new job, and I had been texting him, and I wasn't getting a response. And that wasn't like so crazy, because I'm like, maybe the phone's just not working, like not. And then as we got to like the 5th and 6th hour, because even when we were annoyed at each other, it would be okay, well, fine, I'm not going to talk to you. And then like 20 minutes later, it was like, but, and it would be like a back and forth. And I didn't hear anything, and I ended up, I don't recommend this to anyone, but I ended up like driving around Patterson, because I'm like, I just got to find his car. And then as I was driving there, I know a police officer in Sayreville, and I called and I said, like, I don't really know how this works, but like, how do I find him? Like, I have to ping his phone. I have to find him, because at that point, after 5 or 6 hours, I had like that pit in my stomach, and I was really trying to like not picture what the reality was. Like, well, he's just going to show up. Like, we're just going to, but I hadn't heard from him, and I had a pit in my stomach. And then I got a phone call from the police station saying, like, we need to have you come here and sign something. And I remember saying to the officer, like, you can't lie to me, right? Because you're a police officer. Like, you can't tell me that I'm coming to sign something, like, if you found my husband, because I just need you to tell me before I drive there that you found him. And then I got, when I pulled up to the police station and like casually walked inside, really thinking that I was just going in to sign something, they let me know that they had found my husband. And, he had been in the same place since the day before. And I'll tell you, like, I never felt, there's nothing like more surreal than, and like, there's no preparation for like losing someone that you love. Like, my dad wasn't super well, but he died unexpectedly 30 days to the date before my husband passed away. And when I found out that my dad died, you know, it's my dad, and I was like a daddy's girl, and I always did the sports thing with him and the car thing with him. And like when I found out that he died, I was just like crushed. Like I felt like my soul had left my body because it's my father. It was like, oh, and that was a whole. And I have to tell, like 30 days later, when I got the phone call that my husband passed away, and not to take away from my father dying, but I've never felt anything like that in my life. Daily, there's not a day, probably not hours that go by that I don't think about my husband. I have a hard time, you know, talking to my kids because we just, you know, like when do you show pictures? So I have pictures everywhere. I don't want to upset them. So it's been like 2.5 years now of this really awkward, like I have to say to them, of course it's okay to talk about dad. We want to celebrate dad. We want to, you know, and then they end up just crying. My son's 7.5. One of my biggest fears was that he's not going to remember who his dad was because he just loved them both so much. And then I go through like the guilt of like, could I have just done more? Like, what could I have done? What couldn't I have done? What should I have done differently? And it's just this, you know, ongoing like torturous thing of like just what to do and like what could I have done to have this go differently. And like the reality of it is, and I've learned it, you know, from being in recovery myself, that the only thing that does is really just keep me sick and like really sad. And what I do daily is like I celebrate my father, who I miss incredibly, and I celebrate my husband. So when my son asked me for the 17th time to jump on the trampoline, and I'm tired because I just worked 12 hours and I have to cook and I have laundry to do, like I go and I jump on the trampoline because like that's what my son needs at that time. And when my daughter asked me to drive her to theater for the 7th time this week because she has this and that, like I do it like not to just give to my kids to keep them happy, but like the selfless service is like truly what I try to do. I practice it. I try to practice it my best in every area of my life. I do it at my, you know, my day job. I do it here. I show up when people ask me to show up. I truly live my life like I don't know the next time I'm going to see someone. So when I love them, I tell them I love them. I know what living with regret and shoulda, coulda, woulda is. And I don't want to do that. I try to spend as much time with my family as I possibly can. You know, the thought, like, you don't think it's ever going to happen to you until it does. And, like, this is a reality. There's people that die every day from this disease. And what happens, one of my biggest fears, and I feel like it happened with my husband, and I know it didn't, but I'm just saying this to say it. One of my biggest fears when I was using was, like, I don't want to be one of those people that exists in people's lives and then leaves a hole in their heart. But then people just stop thinking about them and you get forgotten. And I love that we do this because it gives people the opportunity to truly, like, we're not forgotten. These people are not forgotten. I swear my husband has no idea the hole that he left in my heart and his family's heart. And, you know, I'm so sorry to anyone who has ever felt anything like this before because it's horrendous and I don't wish it on anyone, truly. But recovery is available. There is tons of resources out there. I love what Woodbridge does. Gabby and Michelle and Jamie, truly, like 3 a.m., 9 p.m. in the middle of dinner, like they will stop what they're doing to help anyone. So if you have family members, anyone that needs help, this is a great program that they've done. I'm thrilled to hear that other townships are starting it. I think it's fantastic, the idea of the peer help. I never particularly liked talking to counselors. The peer helped work better for me. But all of this, just the resources that are available right now are, they're there. They're there. If you know anyone, please direct them to this program here. It's a great program. And, yeah, that's it.
Thanks
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. You're great. Great job.
Thank you.